Hello there, and welcome to the fifth in the Genuinely You Empath Series. Now, I'm joined by Lizzy Bernthal. My name's Gina Gardiner. Lizzy Bernthal, an amazing lady, very powerful, and very, very experienced. She's a mindset leadership coach, international speaker, author, and a well-being, resilience, and cultural change specialist who supports authentic leaders and ex-military to stand tall, rediscover their voice, to own all of who they are so they can soar. My name's Gina Gardiner. As I say, I'm an international best-selling author, I'm a motivational speaker, and I've got over 30 years experience in helping people develop personal empowerment and transformational leadership. Leadership that is based on compassion, integrity, and courage. And I've done a lot of work over the years with empaths. And I think one of the things for you to think about is empaths are natural leaders, but all of us get the opportunity to lead our own lives. And in fact, that's where you need to start. In order to lead others, you have to lead yourself. You have to know yourself. And over the last 4 videos, we've been talking to you about things, but with particular reference to empaths, although all of the principles that we've been talking about are true for life, with one fundamental difference. Empaths have a divine purpose. You are encoded to come here to help humanity move forward into the new era of consciousness, to start to recognize their value and to deal with past hurts and traumas in order to help not only themselves, but to help ancestrally, to go and heal back along the line, and then to pass on the baton to the next generation in a really healthy and fulsome way. You can only do that if you do the work on yourself. This is all about it's time to shine. It's time to step out of the light and to recognize your true power and embrace it. And in the last video, we talked about, fear of failure and fear of success. But ultimately, recognizing that you have the power and that you have a purpose to help other people can really be helpful when it comes to giving you the motivation to move forward. Now, Lizzie's got a huge purpose, her divine purpose. Do you want to share that with people? Because I think it's important that people understand where we're coming from.
Yeah, so I'm on a mission to help all leaders stand tall and own who they are, as you said, Gina, and help businesses be values and purpose driven. And I think, and get rid of toxic leadership. That is my mission, because it's far too rife. And what I'm discovering is more and more authentic leaders lack confidence, thinking it's all about them, and it's absolutely nothing to do with them. It's the people that they're surrounded by. So once they find their confidence, realize it's there all the time, they just soar. It's just fantastic to see.
Isn't it interesting? Because whilst it is all about the other person, if we're focusing on recognizing and nurturing the potential of other people, at the same time, it all has to start with the leader themselves. And as you're so right, they need confidence. They need confidence without ego, not the confidence that I'm always right and you're wrong. The confidence to be able to say, let's find a solution together because I don't know the answer. And to know that they've trained people and that they've given other people the confidence to be creative. And it brings me really to one of the fundamentals, I think, is the difference between problem dumpers and those people who focus on problems, and they're two different things, and those people who are looking for the solution focused, because the energy, the vibration behind those 3 things is so different. I'm sure you had experience of problem dumpers.
Yeah, I mean, we all talk about radiators and icebergs, those that you walk in the room and you feel, whoa, I just want to be a part of this. And others, you just almost think, oh, I feel exhausted. But yes, I think I've always passionately believed every challenge is a learning opportunity. And, if a hurdle comes in our way, just see how high we can jump, and then just jump. So it's so much to do with it's 100% a mindset.
It's interesting, isn't it? I was a head teacher, a principal for 20 years. And one of the things I was very clear about was training young staff particularly, or new staff, should I say, not to be problem dumpers. And we live in a world where most people want to give the problem to someone else, because once I've told you my problem, or I've told you about the problem, it's not mine anymore, it's yours. You've got to deal with it. I'm off the hook because I've told you that there is a problem. The difficulty with that is it keeps the person who's the problem dumper, it keeps them in an unresourced state, because I don't have to think about how to find a solution, to be creative, to look for a different way of doing things. Then I stay stuck in this belief, this illusion, but I can't do it. I'm not good enough. I'm not powerful enough. I'm not clever enough. I'm not enough. But when you become part of the solution, then it stops being somebody else's problem. I stop being a victim. I start to be part of the hero, part of the solution, part of the way forward. And it starts with mindset. And, we live in a time when nobody can know it all. If you want to be the best boy or girl in the class, you want to know it all, you want to be the fount of all preferment, you're on a hiding to nowhere. And I think when we take this back into the realm of empath, one of the things that strikes me, and I've worked with many, and some of them incredibly powerful, have huge capacity to make a difference, that what they do is that they shine the light on what they don't want. They shine the light on what's going wrong, on the lack, on what they haven't got, what they can't do. And that just drains the very lifeblood out of them. It's madness. Why would you do that rather than shining on the light on what you can do, how you can find a way forward, what's going well? Because that fills you up, that empowers you, that gives you the very essence of how we move forward positively. But so many empaths, in my experience, until we start to change their mindset, get stuck in this, but I can't do that, or I've done it before and it didn't work, or but I don't know how to, rather than that's what my purpose is. How can I use what I know? How can I work with people who perhaps know a bit more than me? How can I be in the right place where I can deliver my divine purpose? And one drains you and leaves you feeling very small, and the other fills you up and leaves you feeling more powerful. Does it mean that you have all the answers to start with? No, of course it doesn't. But you are personally more resourced, aren't you, when you look at what you can do rather than what you can't?
Yeah, and it's interesting you say that, 100%. I think it's noticing when we get into that negative kind of mindset where and I think, I spent, as you know, I spent 25 years in the army, and there was an 100% philosophy. You could never go with a problem unless you've thought of a solution. Now, the solution might not be right, but it's just, we couldn't just say, this is not working. Okay, well, if it's not working, what do you suggest to make it work? And it just, when you were talking, that took me straight back to my officer training, where we had to pretend we were literally crossing a crocodile waters with a rope and a piece of wood, but the wood wasn't long enough. And we had, that whole mindset of just thinking it can be done and I can do it.
Yes.
I don't know how to do it, but it can be done, and I work out a way how to do it, even if as a team, collaboratively, we can work out how to do it. And that's a completely different mindset.
It's also physiologically, there's a really good reason for it, because left brain is very either or. It tends to stay in the problem, where right brain is creative, it's solution focused, it's looking for ways forward. And so by shifting from one to the other, you give yourself the capacity to be more resourceful. And one of the easiest ways to shift from left brain to right brain is to breathe. And I don't just mean breathe ordinarily. I mean, just take 3 or 4 deep breaths. And I was given a trick by a guy called Michael Cahill, who's an expert in all of this. And he said, if you breathe in to the point where you feel that you're full, you can't breathe anymore, and then breathe in some more, what it does is it quietens the heart. Your heart gets rhythm, your pulse rate goes down, and the stress levels are reduced, and you are much more easily able to then go into your right brain thinking and to start thinking of solutions. You know,
Yeah.
this is just so important, because not only are you doing this for yourself, and we've talked in other videos about you're doing this for the world, really. And so doesn't it make sense to not only resource yourself, but to be in a position where you can absolutely resource other people? For me, it's...
And we have a duty for that. You know, this is one of our responsibilities as a leader. You have to lead yourself in order to lead others.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't these days often talk about my own story, but I had a really bad ski accident. And to cut a long story short, I ran my school for 20 years, mostly from a wheelchair. Now, the huge gift in that, and whilst I wouldn't wish it on anybody, there's been enormous gifts that have come out of that. And, there was one occasion when I'd come out of hospital, I couldn't make a cup of tea if somebody hadn't left a cup out, filled the kettle, put it in a position that I could get it to. Within 4 days, I was back at school. Why? Because there I could operate effectively. I could run my school, my mouth worked, my hands worked, and so on. And I could be productive. And, there are so many examples around the world of people who have been in extreme situations where their choice has been, I'm going to focus on making this work. I'm going to focus on what I can do. And the reason I bring it up is because, for the most part, most people aren't facing monumental challenges. They're the little daily challenges that get in the way. Things don't quite work to plan. And I think one of the things I know I've struggled with is impatience. I think it's one of my life lessons. I am impatient. I want things done. I want them now. And in that very impatience, vibrationally, what we are focusing on is the lack. So one of my empathic lessons, and it's a lesson in progress, I have to say, is recognizing divine time and my time are not necessarily the same. And the shape of things that I have in my head is not necessarily the shape of how things need to be. And part of that is recognizing that if you spend a lot of time creating something, and we're both in that position where we spend a lot of time creating things for other people, that if you stay stuck focused on that, then you are not moving forward and you don't see the opportunities that are presenting themselves in other ways. And so, yes, it's important to do whatever it is you're doing, but don't get stuck into it. That's been designed and created for people who are ready for that. And it's then time for you to move on and to always be in the new energy. It would have been very tempting for me to tell you my story and to get stuck in that story. But I'm not in that place anymore. I've moved on. And I'm not in the place that I was in 2 weeks ago. I've moved on. And things are accelerating at such a rate that if you're not careful, because you want to stay, what did you call it, your familiar zone? I called it a comfort zone.
Yeah. I call it a familiar zone simply because it's actually not comfortable being in the comfort zone.
No, very true, very true. So it's time to move on. It's time to embrace your evolution and recognize that who you are today, you're not in competition with anybody else. One of the biggest scourges of our life, I think, is comparatinitis. It's epidemic proportions. You know, I'm comparing my image to something that's airbrushed in the magazine, or, you know, well, I can listen to Lizzy, and I love listening to Lizzy. I have to say, listen to her stuff. It's really good. And she's eloquent and she's confident, and you think, oh, that's brilliant. But if you compared where you are with Lizzy or with me, then that doesn't do you any favors. Compare yourself with the best version of who you were, and how do I become even better? That's much more productive. Now, can you, in the UK, we have a word called nick. It means that you steal, you appropriate other people's ideas. I'm not talking about plagiarism. I'm talking about somebody has a good idea, a suggestion, a principle, a strategy, and that you take that and make it your own. So we've got to be really careful about the nuance. It's about being who you are and taking the best of what's offered to you to help you to grow. If you think about your journey, Liz, what other things do you think that have defined your journey? What's made the difference for you in terms of your capacity to work with others?
I think all my life I've obviously wanted to support others, and I think from a childhood when I had to look after my mother, but I think definitely pushing doors open. I've always had the mindset that opportunities are there, they're abundant, they're everywhere, and if it's not there, create it. So don't wait for things to come to you, find it, because when you're looking for it, it is just incredible how the universe, God, whatever you want to believe in, just opens up. But it is all to do with our mindset. And I notice, there are times I am in that negative space where you just think, oh, why me, what, I can't do it. But the difference now is I notice it and I move out of it. And that's the shift, and I think that is what I support other people to do. I'm not saying we're all amazing, we're all good all the time. We all have those moments, but the difference is when you have those moments, you can get out of them quickly.
Okay, what's helped you recognize? What's helped you?
Well, see, loads of self-development, lots of tools and techniques which I share. I think it's having that purpose. I mean, it's having that purpose in your head all the time. I've got my vision board above my desk. I've got it on my phone. And so when you have those moments of doubt, and when you have those moments of, oh, why me, and all that sort of negativity stuff kicking in, it's like, I've got time for this. Every moment is precious, and you can never get time back. So just get a grip and move on lovingly to ourselves. But I was also going to say about the judgment, the comparison. I talk about, don't compare your chapter 1 with somebody else's chapter 10.
Very true.
Because we can so often compare ourselves with someone where we see them so far ahead of us, and yet there's just the journey we're on. We're just at a different stage of the journey.
And everybody started with the first step.
Yeah.
And the things that makes the difference in terms of an expedition, whether you get to succeed in your expedition, is preparation. You need to be prepared and ideally take the right resources with you. But ultimately, it comes down to putting one foot in front of the other, doesn't it? And, being prepared to take that action. But as we were talking about yesterday, action on its own will give you a level of success, but where it starts to get really exciting is when you are vibrationally aligned with your purpose, with your inner wisdom, and with consciousness. And when you are truly aligned, then those doors of opportunity fly open. Of course, you've still got to be aware of them, but if you think about where are the pinch points, are you aligned? If you're listening to this and you've been listening to all of the other videos, think about where you feel completely aligned, where it feels disjointed or heavy or difficult, and think about, not about judging yourself. We've talked about a lot about, don't get caught up in the madness of judgment. It doesn't help. The really important thing is, well, okay, now you've noticed it, now you're aware, you have a choice. What's your choice going to be? Is your choice going to be to wallow and think, poor me? Or is your choice going to be, I've noticed that, actually, I'm going to move forward. I'm going to take that and I'm going to shift that. We talked yesterday about, when we were videoing video number 4, about Michael Lizzy, the law of attraction. And his view is always, always couch it in the positive. And certainly that's something that I teach people, and I know you do, that if you think about what you do want rather than what you don't want. But how many people do you speak to and they'll be full of what they don't want? And when, you say to them, okay, so if you don't want that, what would you like? What do you want? Often they don't know, because the focus has always been on the things that are going wrong rather than the things that are going right. Now, yesterday, we talked about 2 very, very important ways of enabling yourself to move forward. One was forgiveness and the other was gratitude. They are such powerful emotions and such powerful states vibrationally that they can really help move you forward. But be mindful, don't get caught in the insanity of judgment, of focusing on the problem, on focusing on what you don't want. Focus on what you do. Focus on who you are and what you have to offer. And I'd like to spend the last part of this video talking about charging. So many empaths have a real problem with money. I know so many that, and particularly when we started working together, who were on the breadline. They felt it was wrong to charge. They gave so much for free. And as a result, they struggled hugely financially. It's not meant to be that way. One of the things that I say to them, if your boiler's gone wrong and you ask a plumber to come and sort your boiler out, would you expect to pay them? Would you expect them to have a fee that covered their experience and their development, so they knew to come in and to be able to help you by fixing your boiler? I don't think you'd have any problem with paying them, would you? It's what we expect to do. And yet, when we are talking about the very fabric of our existence in helping people be confident, live better quality lives, there is this reluctance to charge. And I think one of the problems is that empaths particularly do not recognize their own value. Because when you say to them, so do you make a difference? Yeah. Do you make a big difference? Yeah. Do you think there is a value in terms of that other person that you've helped? Do you think that there is a measurable value in what has happened? Yes. So why are you so uncomfortable with charging? Now, it's something, and I want to make this really clear. I am not money driven. Over the years, I give a lot of my time for free. I create lots of resources for free. But I do that in a deliberate, intentional way. But I am perfectly prepared to charge my value because I know I give great value. I can accelerate people's journey very, very quickly. The interesting thing is, if you don't value you, then you are giving out a vibrational energy which is saying, I'm not really worth it. Recognizing your worth and being prepared to charge it. My mentor, who I trust implicitly, Ali Nicole Wow, talks about how actually empaths are encoded for high-end abundance, but they get in their way of themselves because they don't value what they do. Now, one of the things that I've been doing is creating books which are very, very cheap, that people can help themselves. So, and there's loads of stuff on my websites. If you go to genuinely-u.com or ginagardinerassociates.co.uk, there's loads of free resources. So there's lots of opportunities for people to have stuff for free. But it also for people to work one-on-one and to really accelerate their journey, then there is a value. And in that transaction, not only are those people valuing what I am offering, but they're also valuing themselves, saying, I am worth that investment. I am investing in myself. And I want to make a real distinction here between knowledge. You know, there's a saying, knowledge is power. Well, the reality is that knowledge is just data, unless you do something with it. You know, you can have all of the information in the world. And we both know lots of people who've been on loads and loads of courses and done it all, but their life hasn't changed at all. And so what are you doing to invest in you? And so the people I work with, and you know, that I work with, are absolutely invested in becoming the best they can be. I expect that of them. And I am very clear that I am not creating a dependency model. I challenge, don't I? Hopefully it feels lovingly, but I challenge people to be the best they can be. And I know you do when you're working with leaders, that you want.
Yeah. Empower them, make the decision themselves.
Because if you do it for them, what's the result?
Yeah, they just stay stuck. Yeah, yeah.
So this is all about you recognizing your worth, recognizing your value. And one of the ways to do that is by writing. And, you know, we've been talking about that. And, you know, writing, they don't have to be heavy books. They don't have to be, you know, I've written long books, 70,000+ words. But what I recognize is that the evolution can also happen through creating shorter books focused on one aspect, and then rather than doing one big book, do several books that look at different aspects. And you've been involved in those books. Harness Your Power, Harness Your Power as an Empath, Accelerate Your Power. All of those books, if you go on Amazon, they're all on there. But I want Lizzy to now talk about your journey, relatively recent discovery that you were an empath. What do you think has been the shift since you have recognized yourself as an empath rather than a psychopath, as you talked about in the first video?
I think, you know, I think obviously everything you say I totally resound with, and I've been there and I do slip back into it. So I'm just highlighting to everyone that just when you find the answer doesn't mean to say you have to have a constant sort of regroup. I think for me we are mirrors of our clients. I totally get that. And because I'm starting to own who I am, and I feel I'm flourishing, and therefore giving my clients permission to flourish too. And so we as you say, 100%, we have to do the work ourselves. We have to lead by example, and we are our own leader. And what I would say, you know, when we talk about that, you know, we have a choice. That to me is the definition of courage. Yes, I've been to Afghanistan. Yes, I've done had to do some scary things. But to me, that's everyday courage, is making that choice of that benefits you. Right, no, I don't want to stay in this place anymore. I'm going to change, and I'm going to crack on and have a good day. That's the little bits of courage that every minute that we can do, that just move the dial. Everything we do, just think of a dial. Are we moving it towards our best self every single moment of every day? And then, you know, we can't go wrong then.
That's such great advice. And it leads me to think, you know, how many people do you know that are missing living in the moment because they're worrying about what went on in the past? You know, if only I had, or I shouldn't have, or, you know, all of those regrets. Or they're whittling and worrying and being anxious about the future and worrying about something that may never actually happen. And as a result, they are missing being in the moment. And that's the only thing that we truly have, isn't it? Is the in the now. And so those choices that you talk about are the moment by moment choices. And it's those that make the difference, isn't it?
And the language. I mean, I ban the shoulds and the musts and the needs. You know, this is where choice is massive. Choose, you know, and the buts and all those. And just yet is a great liberating word, because if you say, I can't do this, if you add yet, that's telling you, yes, I will do it. And then try's another bad that should only ever be used in rugby, because as soon as we say try, we are setting ourselves up to failure. We either do it or we don't do it. As we've already discussed in another video, we don't try to do it because that we're never going to succeed.
And I think don't kid yourself. You know, so many people actually are deluding themselves that they are working towards something, when actually they're caught in, I call it the quicksand of trying, but you know, they're caught in that same old. And you're so right that we've talked in other videos about the value of language and how language can keep dragging us back to that old way of being, or it can propel us forward. And you know, all of this can feel really overwhelming and tricky to start with. And I would say to you, you know, go and have a look at the books. They're an easy way. You've been using them. You know, how have you found the challenges of the two you've been running
I think
currently?
Yes, exactly. I think there are moments where you think, but that's it. But I also address that and think, wow, great. You know, when you have those moments where you feel like you're in the Bay of Biscay and being knocked about, that is when the magic happens. And then suddenly you find you're in the Caribbean and you think, whoa, and it feels so much lighter. So what I would say to anybody doing the challenge, which is just amazing, the 2 challenges I'm doing at the moment, is that embrace those moments where you feel the whole world's falling apart, because that is when the gold happens. And then you can move through and you get rid of that stuff, and then, you know, the magic happens.
I should have had the books with me. Just bear with me a second.
I've got them here.
Oh, lovely. You can show them up. The 2 challenges that Liz is doing are...
So we've got harnessing the power of being an empath, accelerate your empathic potential, and stepping into your genuine power. And they're all 30-day challenges, and they're simple to do. It can take 10 minutes each morning, or it can take 2 hours, depending on how long you've got. So it doesn't have to be a quick, arduous thing, but yeah, it's just a great way to take yourself forward.
And out of those, it uses the power of journaling. And when you journal, you know, that quiet time when no filters, you just ask yourself the question, set the intention, and then just write. And, you know, getting in tune with yourself is so important. If you're an empath and you have a business, you know, I wonder, Lizzy, have you ever actually asked yourself the question, what is the voice of my business? And what is my business saying to me?
Interesting. No, not directly. I kind of feel my business is my vehicle to deliver my purpose. So my business in that respect has a voice. It's but not actually what my business is saying. I think my business does say to me, your success is assured. Just keep going and it will happen.
Right, so start to use that question more intentionally.
Yes, that's interesting.
Okay? So what does my business need of me in this moment? What does it need of me now?
To show up.
But how does it need me to show up? Who does it need
me to
be? Okay. And those are questions that I've started to ask myself on a fairly regular basis. And when you're quiet, and interestingly, I think I gave pretty much the same answer as you the first time I was asked those questions, but when you get quiet and you get present with that, it's interesting, because one of my challenges, I don't know about you, is I've got so much I want to do, and there are so many things that I am able to do. How do I know which is the priority? How do I know? I'll give you an example. Last summer in lockdown, I was very focused on social media. And, you know, it was killing me. And I knew that it wasn't filling me up and it wasn't having the impact that I wanted it to, but it's what the gurus had told me to do. And so I was doing it. But go back to this, if it is giving you lifeblood, if it is filling you up, do it. And if it's not, then question it. And I decided after several weeks, it took me a long time. I did this exercise. What's my business telling me? Who do I need to be now? How do I need to be operating? What's my priority? And things shifted. And I think that the journaling gives you an open door really into that inner part of you. And for for empaths, that's so important, is that you have that connection with your inner voice, and through that you'll get your connection with source. So as we bring this to a close, remember, action's important. Awareness first, absolutely, then understanding what's going on, and action is so important. But vibrationally, where are you? It's no good doing all of this action if you don't believe in yourself. It's no good doing all this action if you don't have that sense of this is who I am. Being loving, and starting by loving yourself, not being self-indulgent, but actually loving yourself, forgiving what's gone on in the past, gratitude, being grateful for being alive, being grateful for those things, clearing your energy, grounding, all of the things that we've been talking about. So if you want some help, both of us are available. We will put all those details in the show notes. But please take charge of your life. As an empath, we've said time is of the essence. Please don't delay. The window of opportunity is now. And if you don't use it, you will lose that opportunity to accelerate. And if you want some help, please reach out. Lizzy, it's been a joy. Thank you so much for being part of it.
Thank you so much. It's been great. Lovely. Thank you.
And thank you very much. Do get the books. Do start your 30-day challenge. And if you need some help, reach out. Bye-bye now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.